All right, what's happening, everybody? Greetings, salutations, and how the hell are you? Shout out to my man DJ MC, PMSO, Dorian McLean, Monica Farrow, Mary Lee, Guy Travelog, Meow Meow Kitty Poop, Sue Leonard, the Muse Memorandum. What's going on, JJ? We'll be talking to you. I think tomorrow, if my brain serves me right. TJ, Thomas Jordan, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Melissa Stanton, Elizabeth Bryant, Road Trip 1981. Double K, Catherine Kramer, Moniz Phoenix. It is cold here. You got 8 degrees in North Texas. I think we're around 12. We're at 12 here in sunny but very chilly Kerrville. Renee, good morning. Dave Sullivan, CC Jones, a fantastic one. Think of Feliz, the lovely and talented one who's with us today. Dr. Jonas. And anybody else that I miss? Kelly and kids, Snowbound Tuesday. I guess you got a snow day at school. Good for the kids. JC, whoop whoop, right back to you. Ms. J and Maya Rose. Maya Rose, we will be in touch shortly. Rainbows and butterflies. Diane Evans, Sandra Wells, what's up, cuz? And Zoracle Dax. I think I got everybody. Oh, I might have missed Celtic Queen in Westchester, Ohio. And Bev from Chile, Ohio. Hanging laundry, -7 in Wisconsin. Holy shit. That's even colder than it is here. The Polar River. The Polar River is upon us. And then here we go. I gotta include the latecomers. Do you have a pass? Ryan, do you have a pass? Mr. Introspective Woodworker, can I see your pass? Jackie Delario, checking in from South Jersey. Fitting after the Eagles last night. Oh my God. Oh, I actually felt sorry for the Eagles. I wonder if they're going to fire Big Dom. I wonder if that's it. Oh my God. That was rough. Unless you're a Baker Mayfield fan. I like Baker. I'm glad Baker's a little successful. I've always liked Baker. Celeste Loveheart and Joe Litke. Yes, please hit the like button. Thank you for reminding me, Joe. Thank you for reminding me to hit that like button. So if you are listening to this or you are watching the stream and you are enjoying the stream, then please hit the like button and subscribe. I think we're close. We are so close now to 14,000 subscribers. I can taste it. I can taste it. It's on its way. Orlando's here too. Nora Rashid, Mike McCarthy needs to go. Get him out of Dallas. Oh boy. You know, everybody. Okay, a little football talk here, but everybody that ever says anything about Mike McCarthy says how much they like him. Astrologically, Mike McCarthy is a Scorpio. So, just giving you some insight into his sun sign. He's a Scorpio, and a lot of people think that the Dallas Cowboys should hire Bill Belichick, who apparently is on the market. We'll talk about this shit tonight over on Sirius Sports, which will be right here. But Jerry's a Libra and Bill Belichick's an Aries. I don't think they'd work out. And Jerry, for whatever reason, is like extremely loyal. He's a very loyal guy, just like a lot of you are to this show. I appreciate you. All right. Let's get into the Astro Weather, shall we? Without further delay. By the way, I spoke with my buddy Masaki last night, who is currently in Japan, and he just wanted to say hello to everybody because there are people that have been asking about him and wondering how he's doing, and he's doing just fine, living the life of the itinerant observer in Japan and kind of floating back and across between Japan and the US for a while. So anyway, just want to let everybody know that he's doing great, and from time to time pops in here, not here on the show, but the good old US, and does a few little things. But Masaki's a DJ, and every now and then he'll pop up at a party and do some spinning. He's a great DJ, by the way. That guy's talented. All right, let's get into the weather, shall we? Without further delay, there's that Scorpio moon at 14 degrees. Boy, we're coming. I can't believe it. But, oh, that's not right. That's the wrong one. It's like, yeah, I can't fucking believe it. It's because it's not fucking right. Pardon my language. It's like, whoa, that doesn't add up. The math and that doesn't add up. Give me a second. All right. At least I'm awake enough to understand before I utter my first sentence that this shit is not right. All right. Give me one moment here so I can make a few adjustments. Do-do-do. 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 Like, no, that's not where the moon is. Got to know where the moon is. You dig? Yeah, I was just on with Nish yesterday, and then I'm going to be on with JJ in the Muse Memorandum, which is her podcast. That's going to be on. That's tomorrow, and I don't think they go live. I think they are very meticulous and like to edit their productions, which I admire. And Nish and I have been doing that. We started to be on each other's shows for since 7 years. It's been 7 freaking years, and that is how I met the Muse Memorandum, aka JJ, who, by the way, has an amazing jewelry store online. And I wish I could put the link up. Maybe one of the mods can JJ's jewelry store online and put a link in there for people to check it out. She has. I've bought some very nice pieces from her, and then this last year, she actually did a custom piece and did a great job, which you can see dangling from the neck of the lovely and talented one. Okay, here we go. Ah, that's more like it. Yeah, that's more, that chart didn't feel right. This is what happens when you do this at 1:30 in the morning. It doesn't always add up. I couldn't sleep last night. Not in a bad way. It wasn't fitful or restless. I was just awake. So anyway, I took in too much media. I had too much media. Here, I'll give you an astrological story before I jump into the weather. So I've been listening to these really interesting interviews from this recording studio called Sunset Sounds in LA. You know, it's just really interesting watching all these YouTube videos. A lot of them are looking backwards, right? And it's like all these stories are being told. And I hope somebody somewhere, if I had money and unlimited resources, I'd be downloading and transcribing and putting these interviews on hard copy. Because last night I was listening to this interview with David Z, who was Prince's engineer, and he's the guy that basically wrote the tune "Funky," right, by Lip Sync. He wrote that tune. Anyway, he and this other woman, I think was it Susan Rogers, they were talking about the early days of Prince and their involvement, basically from David's involvement with Prince from recording him in Minneapolis, and then eventually being called in because Warner Brothers had heard Prince's demo tapes, and they were like floored, like, "You got to sign this guy." And they talked about Prince, and it's just like some really great astrological insight. They talked about how Tipper Gore hated the song "Nicky Dear," right? And because it's raunchy, and Prince has a lot of raunchy material. And they both were commenting on the fact that in real life, Prince was nothing like that. He was nothing like the lyrics that he would spew. And I thought to myself, this is a Gemini, right? Prince is clearly a Gemini. I mean, that it's that kind of, you know, bicameral demarcation in an individual who has that sign. It's like so obvious. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I stayed up to listen to this. Anyway, here we go. We've got the moon in Aries, and I hope it's putting a little pep in your step today. So we got some conflict, though. And I don't know if you guys caught the news last night, besides Trump flattening the field in Iowa. But there was an attack on an American embassy in Iraq. Why we have an embassy there, or what a failed mission. What an utterly failed mission. Yeah, let's bring them democracy. Yeah, let's bomb them back to the Stone Age. Yeah, let's get all these people pissed off at us and start to create these sub factions that want to kill us. Oh, yeah, look, we've employed ourselves for a lot longer because we got to be here longer. Oh, yeah, let's get Raytheon on the line. Let's get Boeing on the line. Let's get McDonnell Douglas on the line. We need more. This is what I was talking about earlier. I was talking about this on Sunday night. I was talking about these are the aspects of war. Like last night, everything just went next level. When and the other thing too is that apparently, according to sources, the Iranians are coming to the aid of the Houthis, who have been in defiance of the international, and I think there was something else went on with another, like, oil tanker with the Houthis. So here we go, boys and girls. Uh, Buckle up. It could get very turbulent with the winds of war. I mean, that's what I talked about this. We talked about this on Sunday night, and this was the moon that I was looking at, in the conjunction with Chiron and coming in and squaring with Mars and squaring with Mercury. And there is tension and friction in the air. And that's just like, on the world stage and the big stuff. Everything seems to have a bit of a trickle down effect now. We can't seem to detach ourselves from what's going on in the world. Like, we are now part of the story. We're part of the story. For a long time, politically, people weren't always part of the story. For a long time, people didn't care about your politics. It was one of those things where it was just such an incendiary topic. There was this unwritten rule: no politics and no religion around the family table, because everybody wanted to get along. It's like, we don't get to do this very often. Let's not waste our time and squabble on things we have almost zero control over. But that all changed, and we got sucked into the story, for better or worse. So now it's not just the story, but it's the emotional script that's related with the story, or the emotional subtext in the story, because people are going to feel some way about something. They're either going to feel outraged, or they're going to feel outraged, or they're going to feel outraged, or they're going to feel outraged, which is kind of the theme here. And that's what we're going to get. We're going to get outrage. Ugh, damn it. Oh, yeah. I watched this commercial last night, and it was basically put out, I think, by the ACLU and all these other, um, I would say, Jewish uh, groups, and they were making a case that with all these statistics, right, based on all these statistics, that there's no way that you cannot stand with Israel and the Jewish people. That's the first time I've ever seen a commercial like that. And by the way, I watched a little bit of network football last night. I will be honest and upfront about that. So the commercials I saw, of course, I'm never surprised, but I'm always surprised with the commercials. Everybody knows that it's cold air. But again, this is what I was witnessing on that commercial was kind of a soft outrage. And we need you to support us in our soft outrage and put a blue square by your name, or put a blue square, wear a blue square. And it's like this whole solidarity thing. It just seems very selective, and I harken back to the Raven Simone interview. I'm American. I'm an American. I'm a lesbian and I'm an American. And Oprah, sharding in her pants. Oh God, how am I going to deal with this? Anyway, yeah, I mean that's the outrage trickles down, and I'm telling you right now, boy, are you going to get a face full of outrage today in the media? You're going to have people pounding on the media. The pundits, the Pentagon pundits, are going to be pounding for war with Iran. I'm telling you, they're smelling it, right? They can smell it. You can smell it in the air. So what happens? And people see that outrage. Today is a day of outrage, even though it may be fake fucking outrage, or maybe somebody else's outrage, or maybe trickle down outrage. Now that said, an impassioned response might be the right thing to do. An impassioned response might be the thing that could help, set some things straight. And there's a difference between being angry and having an impassioned response. I'll never forget one time I was in therapy, and let's just say the person I was in therapy with was somebody who was very close to me that we had a shared interest with. And it was how to deal with the shared interest as we began to have less uh, in common, or less uh, day-to-day activity with each other. And I had been struggling through therapy for months trying to get my point across. And the therapist that I had been using, or we had been using, was not very responsive to my pleas of, okay, we've had enough of the takedown of Robert checklist. Can we begin to change our therapy up a bit here? Can we begin to change and talk about what we really like about one another? Maybe that's a better foundation to build on than always finding fault, right? And then I would talk. Eventually, you get baited into things, and so I would have some very intense responses. So we go to this other therapist, and I state my cases are being stated, and I state my case, and then the other person, who shall not be named, said, "I can't deal with that anger. can't deal with that anger. And the therapist said, anger? I didn't experience it as being angry. That was an impassioned response. Needless to say, that was the end of that fucking therapy. It was all good before, but now all of a sudden, that therapist didn't work, right? So every now and then, it is good to have an impassioned response. Today may be one of those days, but make sure that it's not based on the trickle down outrage. Please, if you're going to have an impassioned response, make it your own. Make it a homegrown impassioned response. Because I'll tell you right now, there's going to be plenty of it in the air today. Plenty of it. Today, the air is thick with, I don't know, caustic vapors that if you just took a match to it, it would light, right? Because not only do we have this whole Iran thing, and who the fuck knows with stuff like that, and who knows who fires the missiles? Oh, look at this. Well, we didn't do that. Everything points to you doing that, or some weird third party now claims that they are taking responsibility for it. Well, who are these people? Where did they come from? Who's behind them? Right. So you got that in the air, and then you've got the whole Trump thing, and you look at how lopsided everything was. By the way, Nikki Haley's not going to drop out. Got too much money. Vivek is gone. It's a matter of time before DeSantis packs it and he goes back to being a fucking governor. And I'm not sure how this run for president is going to. I'm not even sure how they do that. Like, should you be governing? Go. I mean, why are you not governing? Well, don't you think we can't chew gum and walk at the same time? It seems to be the new phrase. No, just go back and govern. Go govern your state, and which is the DeSantis in Israel, man. They are buddy. It must, Florida. Parts of Florida could just be considered like, Israel West in a lot of ways. I mean, clearly they have a CENTCOM training center right there in Tampa. I'm not overstating the fact. But he should just go back and govern. And it's going to be Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. Nikki Haley's not going anywhere. There's too much money behind her. But the media is going to flip out. The Democrats are going to flip out. And then all the smoke coming from all of these cases that are burning like tire fires, they're going to throw some gasoline on that. So there's a lot in the air today. Just remember that. So if you're going to have outrage, make it your own. Make it your own outrage. Your not outrage, no, your own impassioned response. There we go. Venus Neptune square, we've been talking about that. We talked about that on Sunday night. I mean, clearly there's religious undertones in that. Anytime you start mixing Sagittarius with Pisces and they're at odds with each other, religion is going to rear its ugly head. Those are the two most quote unquote religious signs for different reasons. And they're the most, when mixed in a caustic fashion, it's a zealous. Sometimes it can be a zealous combination of the two. But in interpersonal relationships, it's always challenging and tricky with a Venus Neptune square because you can fall into idealization, but at the same time, you may be falling into a much deeper form of enabling. You may not be able to see the forest in the trees. Now, clearly, conjunctions and oppositions will also bring that out. But the square brings it to a head. So you get to see the truth and the validity if you are really looking. And, with the Mercury-Mars conjunction in very unsentimental Capricorn, the looking parts cannot be denied. Again, on a personal level, you're dealing with the square with the moon, which represents emotion. So, this sets up for some interesting dialogue, confrontation, Perhaps, peeling back a layer or two in interpersonal relationships today. Who knows? Maybe that's where the impassioned response comes from. Um, we got the Sun Uranus trine, which we've been talking about for a while. Innovate, innovate. Guess what I bought? I bought a signal extender. See, that's my contribution to my own podcast. I bought a signal extender. So, because I've been looking, people have been getting on my case for the production values of this, and I'm working on it. Trust me. So instead of going out and buying a $700, and this, I know that sounds cheap, but I'm thinking, let me just get one of these little hot rod Acer computers that are built for gaming, because they're built for gaming. They're built for streaming, and I would have a dedicated streamer, although it would be on a different platform because he's a Mac. But before I spend that $700, why don't I buy a Wi-Fi extender and let's see how that works? So I'm taking my own advice here with the Sun Uranus trine. Also, I met with my web guy yesterday, and we are really close to relaunching 15 Minutes of Flame. It's going to look great. As an interface, it's going to have the same functionalities as the older one, but it's going to look so much better, so much better, so much more modern. And we'll get the opportunity to have our own clubhouse back again. And that's my kind of contribution to the technological innovation that the Uranus Sun trine can bring. But it's also it's more than that. It's kind of a precursor of Pluto and Aquarius as we begin to adopt in a way that gives us perhaps an easier transition into Pluto and Aquarius, which is going to be very, very interesting. A mere 6 days from now, it's kind of be the equivalent of like a polar shift. Just remember last time, I was there for 2.5 months, and boy, did shit get crazy. Pluto right there it is, the aforementioned Pluto, 2931 Capricorn. So we're coming up on the conjunction, which is, that conjunction is so powerful, especially kind of now. And I talked about at length, I talked about the 29th degree as it relates to the Sabian symbols. If you didn't see the Sunday night show, go back and check it out. If you want to hear more about Cat Williams' chart, you can go towards the end of the stream, because that's where it is. But I get into a lot of this stuff on the Sunday night show. And what else? The sun is moving into sextile with Neptune. I like the sextile. This is the kind of the cooling energy on all this heat and intensity and kind of the butt rash of the day right here. So you can take a bit of a higher ground. Ask yourself, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Take the higher ground. But you may have to whip a few merchants in the stall before you do that. Let's see what else we have. Saturn sextiles. Yes. Mercury and Mars sextile Saturn. Sextiles are good. If you are focused and following a schedule today, you can be very productive. That's my aim. I aim to be productive today. You can be very productive. So if you're at a certain level, try to get to the next level of productivity. Challenge yourself today. It's a good day. If you want to stay out of the kind of raging squall, keep your head down and get productive and look for solutions that are more long-term than short-term fixes. We have a nice little Saturn Jupiter sextile too going on, as well as Mercury and Mars trining Jupiter. Your hard work pays off. It's profitable. Whether it's putting in the sweat equity now and dealing with or reaping the benefits later, who knows? Who knows how much later? It might be a lot more closer than you think. So if you want to get out of the again, I'll use it, the raging squall, keep your head down. But if you need to have an impassioned response, have a good one. Have a good one. And don't play the victim. That is the other side of this coin. The Venus-Neptune square can be very victim-oriented. You did this to me. You did this to me. You did this to me. No, you kind of did something to yourself there too. By putting yourself in the situation and being in the relationship with that person for as long as you did. Forgive and move on. All right, let's get into our True Hemp Science star of the day. Don't forget to hit the like. It's very important. The algorithms love it. They eat it up. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, here we go. Today's star of the day is THS star of the day, the True Hemp Science star of the day. And you know all about True Hemp Science. You know all about it. True Hemp Science is your this week. Whoops, there we go. Where is that right there? That's what I want. I don't want that. Yes. This week, Jasper is going on a very disciplined application of pet sounds. I can tell his back is flaring up a little. He's getting a little arthritic back there. So we're going to start using the pet sounds. And you can get pet sounds and all kinds of great CBD product over at truehempscience.com. All you got to do is type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and you will get free product when you spend $100 or more, free shipping with $100 or more, and you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. Chris is such a cool guy. He actually gave my mom some CBD. So I'm getting my mom on some CBD today. My mom and Jasper, they're going to be CBD now. All right, John Carpenter, if you don't know who he is, he's one of the fathers of the modern horror film who, made some great movies. If you like horror, John Carpenter is your guy. And the thing I always liked about John Carpenter horror films, I'm not a big horror movie guy. I don't like horror movies. I mean, I like them in different epochs, like 30s, 40s, 50s, and to some extent even 60s horror films, like the whole Hammer series, I can live with. There's a big shift in horror post-Exorcist. And it's like the movies aren't just movies anymore. Like, so I'm very protective for the most part about what I put in my consciousness. Horror movies are not one of those things. However, John Carpenter, in a lot of ways, kind of set the stage for like the thinking man's horror film, starting in the 1980s with the Halloween series. And the Halloween series was so amazing by how much money it made. John Carpenter made Halloween for less than $1 million. It grossed over $300 million internationally. And he had some skin in that game because he had writing credits. John Carpenter is also a composer, so he had composing credits. He was a director. I think he was probably too young. It was one of his, maybe second or third film. I think Assault on Precinct 13 was his first movie, which is a very intense movie. And so he made some money off of Halloween. And it's like, that if he made money off the first one, he was in a position to make even more money off Halloween number 2 and 3. So he's known for the Halloween series, Starman, The Thing, which is considered the original Thing is a classic, and it's it's always kind of an intrepid quest to redo a classic movie, and Carpenter probably outdid the first movie, right? So he also did Starman, which was incredibly successful, and he's a composer. A lot of people don't know that he composed a lot of the soundtracks to his movie, along with Alan Howarth, who was a friend of mine for a while. I haven't talked to Alan in years, but Alan also did the sound effects for Carpenter. So where does the horror come from in his chart? I'm going with Mars. I'm going with Mars in the 12th house, and then Venus in Pisces. because the 12th, to me, if there are two signs that are going to be connected to this horror genre, it's going to be Scorpio and Pisces, and for different reasons. Like Scorpio can take you into the underworld, can take you into the realm of you know, demons, living beneath the surface of the earth, and the crypto terrestrials, right? It's all very scorpionic. Whereas Pisces deals with things like wraiths and dark spirits and egregores, and the wild imagination that comes along the territory of Pisces. So Mars classically, hidden enemies, but I also feel like it's his passcode to the horror world. And he's a Virgo rising, which he's going to have a lot of attention to details, and somebody who's a director and a writer, and I think maybe even production credits, needs to be able to do that. If you look at a picture of John Carpenter, he looks horrible. And this is probably from about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. He's he's one of the few Capricorns that I've seen that has not gotten younger as he's gotten older. He's gotten he looks really old now. But the thing that I always remembered about Carpenter in his various pictures is his face is so Capricornian. It's like when you get a Capricorn, he doesn't even look like a Virgo. I mean, there are pictures where he does not. He must be tracking a very different rising sign. Maybe his rising sign is Aquarius now through the progress chart. But he always had that craggy Capricornian kind of visage about him. And the eyes are not symmetrical. One is kind of higher than the other, which is very Capricornian. And I mean, he looks like a fucking Capricorn. And I haven't seen too many pictures of John Carpenter where he's not dressed in black. And black is the color of Saturn in Capricorn. The thing that really jumps out to me is there's a couple things. I mean, again, we're just looking at this from a professional perspective, because in a lot of ways, that's how we know him. Not a ton of details about his personal life, with the exception that he and Rob Zombie hate each other, and he married Adrienne Barbeau from Maude, who starred in The Fog. But he was an independent filmmaker. He comes out of that independent sort of tradition of filmmakers that were popping up like fungi in Southern California back in the 70s, 80s, USC Film School and all that stuff, right? He also did Star Crash, if I'm not mistaken, which was another very early sci-fi movie. So the science fiction themes play a role in Carpenter's movies. They're all through his movies. And Uranus, to me, is the planet that represents science fiction. It's futuristic. It uses technology. It has kind of different rules of order for alternate worlds. That's one thing about science fiction. If you're going to have a science fiction story, you have to be consistent with the rules of your world, right? So you're right, but it's also very independent. And this is where Carpenter cuts his teeth. He cuts his teeth on, for the most part, horror and science fiction. And he's very independent. And he has this, it's not quite a grand trine, but he's got Venus trine Uranus. So people understood him, I think. Like, I think in terms of the industry, people understood John Carpenter. And even a film like They Live, which is a very low budget movie, super low budget. I don't know where he was with the studios when he made They Live, because clearly there are some undertones there, which Carpenter has vehemently denied over the years. But it's to me, it's one of the greatest movies of all time, in spite of its kind of clunky special effects, which I think kind of add to the movie now. But people got him, and I think he's when you look at somebody like Carpenter with the Venus Uranus trine, especially with Venus in the sixth house, which does have to do with work. He's somebody that could work with a wide variety of people. It's like let's get the job done. I don't care, what you look like. I don't care, what you smell like. Let's get the job done. And And you can see this with the Venus Uranus trine. This is the kind of the everyday fare, and what Pisces rules film, and he has Pallas in Pisces, which tends to be pretty psychic. So Venus is in Aquarius, but it is trining Uranus. My bad, it's not in Pisces. Pallas is in Pisces. And he has a lot of Aquarius in his chart. He's got Mercury in Aquarius. And again, what do we talk about with Aquarius? We just talked about Uranus. If you're a writer, and he does write, and he writes fiction, he's also a poet. Mercury in the fifth house. And what do we have here? We've got the trine with Neptune. So he's very imaginative. Most of the stuff that you see in John Carpenter's movies, John Carpenter wrote. Not every director writes their own scripts. So he wrote that. He's also pretty musical. And I think that comes through with Neptune as well. You wouldn't, tap your toes or hum along with his music, but it's a lot of soundtracky stuff, and most of it quite dark. So Mercury in Aquarius. It's interesting too, like the whole Black Moon Lilith thing. And I think about this. I'm like, oh, well, how does that play for a movie like Halloween? Which I think has the babysitter theme, right? And this whole kind of dark. It's kind of a dark moon theme around youth too. And the fifth house represents children. I know he's got some kids, but his movies are for a while on the teen genre side of things. So we know that he's imaginative. Mercury, Neptune trine. He's got Jupiter and Sag right down here, third house. He's pretty prolific. And he's got that Jupiter trine with Saturn and Pluto. And I was looking at Saturn and Pluto in his chart. And again, I don't know what his reputation was like. Because some directors, they're just tyrants. They're absolute tyrants. But when I see Saturn and Pluto in the 11th house, to me, that's leading a group, leading group projects, and being a director of a movie is a group project. You are managing the time and the resources of a group, and hopefully you're tapping into that group and getting the best out of them. So I think John Carpenter, as far as movies go, he was always making movies that made money back. So there's your Pluto Jupiter trine, and probably on time and on budget. And he probably ran a very tight crew, right? Like he knew what he was doing. And he's got that sextile with Neptune, which I think softens up a lot of this Saturn-Pluto conjunction, the either my way or the highway in the 11th house. And then he has Moon in Pisces over here. It's really funny because he married Adrienne Barbeau. And I remember as a young man growing up and watching her on Maude and fixating on her chest because she had big boobies. She had big boobies. Big boobies are Cancerian. And he's got Moon, which is the ruler of Cancer, in his 7th house. So I think John might have been attracted to the kind of the lunar aspect of Miss Barbeau. Just saying. Unfortunately, their marriage did not last. Moon square Uranus. The emotions come and the emotions go, and they run hot and they run cold. But there's usually another emotion not far behind. And I think overall the theme here in his chart is one of imagination and productivity, right? The sextile to the moon with the sun, right there, bang. And even Mercury in a wide sextile to the moon. Mercury trine Neptune. This is all imaginative. This is productive. This is productive in group enterprise and group affairs. Makes money. Virgo rising pays attention to the details. He's got an interesting chart. I can see why he's been successful as a filmmaker. And then the South Node and Chiron in Scorpio. We can't leave without talking about that and this relationship with Scorpio and the underworld. Like, this is a guy, experientially, he's been there, right? This is an interesting topic too, from like a past life perspective. The ability to innately understand the conditions of horror in the underworld. Like, been there, can tap into it, over here at True Note and Taurus, let me get my act straight and together in this lifetime, and let me put my story on paper. Let me put my story on celluloid, and let me tell it. And let's make money off it. There you go. There's your True Hemp Science star of the day, John Carpenter. All right. We'll be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time with another edition of the Astro Weather. Please join us over on 15 Minutes of Flame. The link is in the notes for the show. Just go right on over there. It's baked, ready to go. We'll try to get into this Trump thing, the updraft, the fallout, and where do we go? It's it's always an interesting question. Where do we go from here? And it's almost very interesting to find out what else is happening out there and how we may connect some dots in ways that are a little bit off the map or off the road, which we like to do. All right, take good care. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to set what's possible. Have a very blessed day. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you are you. Bye for now.